Hello, everybody. This is Eric Vierthaler of Vierthaler Studios back again for the next episode of Sit Down by the Fire. I'm here with my co host, Ty from Junebug Film, and we're here with our next special guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hey guys, my name is Jack.
Hi there, Jack.
Hello.
And so I was just wanting to say thank you so much, for taking time out of your day to be here.
Oh, thank you, Eric. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, certainly, of course, anytime. But yeah, and so how about that? How about that? You tell the audience what is it that you do?
Well, I'm an actor as well as an emerging screenwriter and film producer. I started acting when I was 6 years old and professionally when I was 16. I've mostly been acting in like short slash feature films, TV and web series, commercials, both online and on screen, music videos, and some theatre in between. And a lot of the work that I write and produce has mostly been short films and monologues. And just recently, I'm one of the actors who's involved in the upcoming horror feature film Viral Haunt.
Awesome, yeah. And so how about that you tell the audience about this new film that you're a part of called Viral Hunt?
Yeah, so like basically Viral Haunt, so it's about like this group of like really popular streamers slash YouTubers who go into like this haunted mansion. It's called like the Ripper Manor. And but unfortunately for them it all goes like a little bit like haywire and everything. And well like really chaotic basically. It's kind of like so like Viral Haunt, the best way that I could describe this film, it's like sort of like a combination of the Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity. So yeah, like it's quite an interesting concept. And not only is it just about like so it's kind of like you know like how you watch like those sort of like ghost hunters TV series when you see when you see like film crew like go into like a haunted place, sort of like whether it be like a church, mansion, abandoned warehouse and everything. So it's kind of vibe and everything. And yeah, so it's kind of like it's really interesting because not only is it just about like, oh, these a group of YouTubers slash streamers who go into like this abandoned mansion and sort of like all hell breaks loose, but it's kind of like it's sort of like sends a message to like how sort of like the extremities of how far like um these streamers will go, just to for the sake of producing content, even if in this sense for Viral Haunt, sort of like them staging stuff and everything just to make just to trick the audience and everything. And so yeah, it's kind of like sort of like discovering like not just the extremities, but how you know how sort of like you know negative like the social media platforms are and everything.
Hmm.
And but like I mean like when you're like using sort of like when you're using video streaming, if you're doing it the right way then good, but like obviously in Viral Haunt it shows sort of like if you're like staging it, if you're doing it like sort of like fame, money, whatever, then obviously you're doing it completely wrong. So it's kind of good to incorporate the horror element to really sort of like up, sort of like up the stakes in Viral Haunt. And that's what it's all about.
Awesome, yeah. And I mean, just from what you said, it sounds like a really cool concept of for a horror movie. And I mean,
Yeah.
especially considering that nowadays, with the advent of the internet and Facebook,
Mm.
YouTube, and all that, and then right now with the movie that you just made, it just makes it that much more
Well,
relevant.
it kind of goes back to what kind of just goes back to what actual horror was about.
Yeah.
Morality.
Yeah. Like I think because like what's really interesting about Viral Haunt, and especially because like how it like really like stands out from like a lot of horror films is that it kind of like sort of like in this current state of in this current society, in this current generation and everything, whereas like social media, sort of like you have like sort of like TikTok, even though I don't really use TikTok.
I don't,
And
I
sort
don't
of like
use, I don't use
sort
China
of like
Fest.
the streaming platforms and everything, just sort of like incorporating that and everything, and just
Mhm.
kind of and sort of like with
So,
Viral Haunt, just showing like how much it can like affect one's mentality and everything, how it can sort of like
mhm.
affect other people that are like involved in and everything.
So
You know,
please
it,
tell me. Hopefully, there's a character like a certain couple of brothers that are getting into fight scenes, fights and
uh,
movies. No, I
unfortunately,
hope I hope we get to see those guys get killed.
well,
Not
I've got
literally though. Not
I've
literally
got
for just for the movie.
well, I mean, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. Bad news is there's no like brothers in this film.
Aw.
But the good news is that there are like a couple of fight scenes involved. So
Okay.
yeah,
So no certain brothers who, if we say, hopefully, I don't know, they might sue us, but one of them just had a big fight recently.
oh
Hopefully, hopefully we get to, hopefully we get to see some guys like that. And it's the one because the YouTubers that I'm not. This is not like a bashing YouTubers podcast within the first
no
6 minutes,
no.
but no. The ones that I don't like is the extreme pranksters on YouTube. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think because like I think like because sort of like in Viral Haunt and everything, not so much like it's not really like sort of like these group of streamers, they're not so much like pranksters ones and everything, but like because of like they're sort of like staging these scares and everything, like sort of like staging sort of like
so
these ghosts and everything, having one of them dressed up like one and everything. It in a way, it's kind of like they're sort of like pranking the audience, but the audience doesn't know about it. They're like kind of like, oh my god, that's an actual ghost. Where it can just be like one of the one of the streamers with like a white blanket, like a white bed sheet with two eye holes.
right.
Yeah. And so, yeah. Yeah, so checking the IMDb page for Viral Hunt, I see that you
Mm.
play a character named. I see you play a character named Jake. So,
Oh, Richard.
or
There's
sorry,
there's actually two Jacks in this film. Yeah, Jack
that can make
Coy.
things confusing. I am
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm Jack Hyde. I play Richard, and Jack
I'm
Coy,
sorry.
who is just who was just absolutely phenomenal as Jake. Yeah, but yeah,
Way to be.
I play Richard.
Well, well,
Okay, well,
well, well,
sorry.
Eric,
Yeah.
that was kind of a real Richard move there.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry. But yeah,
That's
I
okay,
think that
man.
maybe but yeah, I kind of think I might need to get these checked out or something. But yeah, so I really apologize for the mistake. You
No,
play a
no,
character
that's
named
all right, man.
Richard.
Maybe,
So
maybe he should go to school again and learn how to read.
so if you're allowed to talk about it, can you tell us much about your character?
Absolutely, man. So, so basically, as I mentioned before, I'm Richard. So like Richard, to me, he comes across as someone who is kind of like the glue, as well as like the moral compass and the mature one of the streamers and everything. And he's actually like one of the found with Jake, they're both like the founding members of Haunt Hunters. That's the name of their group and everything. And basically, so like I think like Richard and as when I look at Jake and Richard, he's kind of like he represents sort of like the good side of sort of like the streamers and YouTubers, sort of like making content, like doing it for the passion, like sort of like doing for the fun of it and everything. And Richard, he's sort of like he's really really into the paranormal activity and everything. Like he's like so into it and everything. He's fascinated by it, and he has like this loyalty to his friends and everything. And and when you look at Jake on the other hand, I mean, he starts off like really, sort of like having the same level of passion that Richard has and everything, but like as Haunt Hunters starts blowing up and starts getting big, um, we see like a different side to Jake. He represents sort of like like the ugly side, where it's like sort of like fame, views, money and everything, just sort of, so like obviously like as time goes on, they sort of like their opinions, sort of like their directions on like where they want the channel to go, it sort of like clashes with one another. And yeah, like Richard, he's quite an interesting person, because like unfortunately for him, when he gets fired from Haunt Hunters and everything, he starts to take like a really dark turn, like so he kind of like flies off the rails and everything. So yeah, like he's kind of like, he was a really like a really interesting kind of person or character to play.
Awesome. Yeah. And so, and then with all that said, would you say that your character Richard, would you say that he was one of like the more complex characters you have played compared to all of the rest that you have taken a jab at?
So I have played I mean, I have played like a lot of like complex people with like so many complexities. I mean, I've been like before, like in my past previous works, I've been like serial killers, psychopath, sort of like mentally unhinged kind of people, sort of like nerdy characters, basically guys that don't get the girl in the end, unfortunately. But I think like for Richard, it was kind of like a really interesting one. I mean, like that's the thing though. I don't really do much of social media, but like when I see Richard, when I was sort of like doing sort of like doing the preparation, going over, sort of like the conversations that he would have with like the other people, even like the situations that don't involve me, that don't involve Richard. Like sort of like there was one scene where sort of like like the Haunt Hunters, they have like this podcast interview on like things that go bump in the night with Zara, and she brings up Richard, sort of like, oh yeah, I know Richard, like he's a really nice guy, really, really passionate and everything. So I was kind of like, okay, so I mean, I was there like when I was like watching that scene, like just like looking at that discussion, I was like, okay, so okay, Zara and Richard, even though we weren't in the same scene, sort of like, okay, so like what's their relationship like? When did they first meet? How did they meet? How long has their relationship been going on for? So I was kind of like sort of like substantiating Richard, like sort of like giving him like layers and everything, sort of like very like in depth, sort of like justifying like, okay, like why is he the way that he is and everything, so sort of like okay, so what's my relationship with Jake like? What's my relationship with Will and Belle and Demi like?
Mhm.
So like and Darren. So I was kind of like asking myself these questions and everything, just to sort of like just to not to just justify the reasons as to why Richard is the way that he is, but sort of like gain like a better understanding of him and everything, sort of like when he's apart, sort of like during his time with Haunt Hunters, and then after when he gets sacked and everything. So yeah, it was kind of like that's kind of like my way of working as an actor. So sort of like a really in-depth approach. And like I said, when you're playing someone who is complex and has so many complexities, it's down to the actor's job to figure out and discover and find out what those complexities are, and understand them and everything. And that's kind of like what I did for Richard, in a sense.
Nice, awesome. And so And so when you were preparing for your role of Richard in the movie, so like, did you like research like any characters like who are like your character, or what?
Well, for Richard, so like what I did was I would usually like before and even during production, I would sort of like go on my phone and I was sort of like, scroll, sort of like research on, sort of like sort of like churches, abbeys that are haunted and everything, and sort of
Right.
like different, it was like different parts of the UK and everything. And I'm like looking through it, and because I think like that would be sort of like that would be something that Richard would do,
Right.
because he's so into it. And as I'm like going through it, I would like read through it carefully, and I was like, oh wow, okay, oh yeah, like that's really interesting. I did not know that and everything. And I would kind of like sort of like it would give me like sort of like that knowledge on these haunted places, and I would try to find a way to incorporate that into Richard, like sort of like my own creative input, just sort of like learning and understanding why these haunted places are so interesting to him, and sort of like matching that level of interest and everything. So
Well, it sounds like Richard is not a dick.
well, yeah. Richard
funny.
is Richard. He's not Dick.
But well, he sounds like a very interesting character. Like definitely the good side of social media, because social media, like I've seen Robin Williams said something very interesting. I think it even falls into social media because Robin Williams wasn't really much involved with social media because he kind of passed away before. Yeah, but he said something very interesting. That it kind of basically reminds me of the whole thing about this movie. How he said, I'm paraphrasing the quote, but it's like, cocaine is God's way of telling you that you have too much money. So maybe like it kind of goes back into the aspect of fame, like what do you do? What would you do for fame? And it's just like some of these YouTubers, where does it go too far?
Yeah.
Where like, I mean, and plus, with the advent of the internet, the internet is so interesting because it's basically a new wild, wild west, where
Yeah.
like you could upload anything on anything, and then like the videos that should get deleted off the internet
Don't.
Yeah.
exactly. And
I know it's weird.
like I don't want to like there's and then you get people that you get these then you get like it's like you get these small channels that are just like you can tell they're passionate and they get like maybe 2 views, and then the ones that are just absolute like you can just tell like based on the guy's personality that there's I don't know what it is, but there's something off about you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I think because like I mean like that's the thing. Now I mean I try not to like bash. I'm not trying to like bash YouTube or anything like that. But
Right.
it's just that like like it could like some. I mean, that's the thing. I don't really watch like a lot of YouTubers, but from what I've heard, like a lot of the content that they like sort of like put out there, it can be like quite misleading and everything. That you're sort of like, and this was like something like I mean I'm trying not. I don't want to avoid. I don't want to give like spoilers to about
Right.
Bible Horn too much, but it's kind of like I remember like one part where it's like me and Jake, and I'm like, and I say something to him like, like Jake, seriously, we're tricking, we can't keep on doing these stunts, man. Like we're tricking the audience. They're gonna find out, they're gonna find out eventually. And he would say something like, no, it's fine. This is what this is what they want, like like we might be staging it, but it's getting us more views, man. Look at it. So yeah, like and yeah, like obviously, so like it's kind of like sort of like really a lot of tension that goes into it, where you have like when it's like a group chat, when it's a group channel, when you have like one or two members that are like, sort of like when they see the light and they're like, oh, this is wrong. I don't think we should be doing this. And then like the others are like, what are you talking? Like, what are you talking about? It's fine. Like the people are loving it and everything. So yeah, it's just kind of like that, sort of like use of contrast and everything. And, that could, potentially lead to chaos and disaster,
Mhm.
Certainly, yeah,
Mm.
definitely, and yeah, and I mean, there's even some videos on YouTube like that go viral, and then it ends up haunting that person like for the rest of their life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean, oh, sorry, Ty, you go first, man.
well, yeah. No, look at the YouTubers that, like Eric was saying, that made one just a stupid little video. He was just being stupid with his friends, and then they made a video, and then the video went viral, and then people were talking about it, and and taking it seriously when it was more meant to be stupid. There's so many examples of that. Like, I mean, we're I think Eric and I, and even you remember when we're old enough all to remember when you didn't have a camera everywhere.
Yep,
Mm.
and yeah,
Like,
and also, I'm sorry.
yeah, like, can you imagine like some of the stupid stuff that we did when we were teenagers? If we were teenagers now,
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, yeah, and yeah, and I mean, and that's also one of the either the good things or the bad things about social media is that knowing that people have cameras everywhere now, so it can be I mean, it can be a good thing, and say if there was a crime, and then somebody could then have evidence for it, but also can be a bad thing because it can come back to haunt you, and it could and it could
Mm.
severely could damage your relationships, your job, your reputation, and even your entire life.
Well, yeah, and I
yeah,
think because like that's what's like um I think like for viral haunt, that's kind of like the message that we're trying to convey with this film and everything. So like when you're sort of like, I mean, like when you're doing like when you're doing these stunts, when you like taking these extremities and everything, like somewhere along the line, it like eventually it will affect your friendships. It will affect your working relationships with the people that you're working with, that you've known and put this channel this channel together and everything. It's not so much like, sort of like diff- differences in sort of like directions of like where they want this where they want to take this channel, but sort of like, putting each other in like putting each other in harm's way, and sort of like and filming it, which is kind of like, the situation with viral horn and everything, just filming like someone getting hurt, someone possibly getting killed, for for the sake for the, making a snuff video out of it, for the sake of like
right.
views and yeah, for the sake of views and fame and everything. It's quite, it's quite sad. And so like that's what we were trying to go for, with viral horn, just sort of like convey like this message where it's like sort of like not just the ugly side, but sort of like if you're like wanting to be like any type of streamer, like even if it's like investigating haunted places and everything, you need to learn when to scale back. You need to know like when to tone down, when you need to have that moment of realization where it's like, okay, wait a minute, this is not right. Like, okay, we're overdoing this. I don't want to hurt my friends.
Right.
Like I want to, I want to make content for the fun of it, and I want to make sure that the people involved are having the most fun, doing it.
Oh yeah, certainly, yeah, and yeah, and even the worst thing about some of those videos is that once it's online, 99.9% of the time, it's going to be on there forever.
Oh yeah, like even if like the original content producer was able to delete it, I mean, chances are you will have like a few people would be able to like download it, save it, and then like re-upload it onto like another platform. Like you just there's no getting rid of it at
See,
all.
see, that's the one thing. I honestly think even for YouTubers, you know, and I say this because but we obviously started our YouTube channel for free, but I'm
Hmm.
actually wondering if if you want to make a YouTube channel, even if you pay $1, okay, basically, but this dollar indicates that you own it. Anything that you have out there online, basically, so you can copyright claim it.
Hmm.
Because sometimes the stuff that you do on YouTube, if it, you know, people can download it and to make fun of you, and it's just like when at what point, then they might always argue fair use, right?
Mm.
Well,
Yeah.
what's the point? Where does fair use draw the line when you're just being a you know a bully, or a jackass? When does
Yeah,
that line?
exactly.
And it's a very interesting thing too that we're even talking about viral, just this whole thing, because it even reminds me of like, I'm not even okay with like Google or Earth in some ways,
Mm.
because like I don't like my house, that I live in out there on the internet. Like
Yeah.
what if some guy, what if like think about it, you could do another movie, a twist, like a 1 hour photo part two, where a guy gets obsessed with the people on Google Earth.
Mm.
Yeah, you certainly could. And now that you mention it, actually, I actually just now got reminded of a previous guest we had on. I mean, this guest actually was talking about how there was a fan like who found her address, and then sent her, things like for her to sign, and then she was both humbled, like that somebody wanted her autograph, but she was also scared, thinking, "Oh my goodness, like my address is out there on the internet for the whole world to see." And so knowing that, that she's not as safe and secured as she thought.
Mm.
And now luckily that it was just a fan like who genuinely
Cool.
wanted their autograph, and they weren't planning to kill her or anything, which is great and all.
Mm.
But I can understand why that she would get scared.
Well,
Well,
and
yeah, like that's the thing about the internet, because like it's like it's massive and everything, and you
It
you
is.
just have no idea who's going to be like you said, like who's going to be like watching your house on Google Earth. You just don't know. Like, I mean, it could be like those fans that are like sort of like crazy obsessed, like the fans that goes like sideways, take things like so literally and everything. You just don't know, and it's a scary place.
It is.
right.
It really truly is.
Well, I saw like one of the things on Amazon. I saw something. I think I hope Amazon got rid of this thing, but like basically, it was a thing where, um, like this was like a few years back. Like they had this thing where basically they can deliver a pack. It's a camera. They can deliver a package and open your door and just set it in there. And I'm like, I don't
What?
like that. This was a few years back on the news. I saw it, and I'm like, I don't like that idea. Like
No.
like because I'm like, Jeff Bezos. I hope you did not do that for some people, because like because think about it. What if I don't. I'm not. He can't look. You can't look at every employee. So what if somebody sits there, they can just go into your house and steal your stuff. Then at that point.
No,
Oh
that
gosh.
that is so extra creepy. Like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I bloody well hope that Amazon has like completely scrapped that.
I would
Yeah,
hope so too.
this was like maybe 2015-ish, maybe I saw, so 10 years ago. I hope they haven't done that because, but no, like there's stuff out there now. It kind of this whole thing just kind of reminds me. It's kind of reminds me a little bit of the classic stuff from the the golden age of science fiction. The dangers of technology. It's basically what viral and sounds like. And like what
Yeah.
does it do? Like what does it do? And because when do you become too basically like the old saying, when do you become too big for your britches?
Wow.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think because like when you become like so when you become like so big and everything, you have like some like not all streamers are like this, but like there some of them like when they become like really big and successful and everything, they tend to have like this mentality, this psychology of like they truly believe that they're invincible, that they're above everything and above everyone else and everything. And I think like when you say like too big for their bridges, I think like that kind of that kind of like perspective, it kind of like gets thrown out the window.
Mhm.
Like they just have like no, they tend to have like no limit to themselves, and they're unable to to contain that.
Right.
I'm just really surprised that I never heard of that thing about Amazon. And then if I
I
were them
know.
business wise, it would have been smart for them to get rid of that because that can severely damage their reputation. And yeah, that would not be good. Like, who in the world thought that that was a good idea?
I know.
Yeah.
Like it's my
Well,
first time hearing about this, and I'm amazed. I'm shocked
Me
that
too.
Amazon would do that.
well, you see, and I guess they did it from what I heard, they tried to do it to prevent package theft, which yes is an issue with Amazon. But say, like, what if you just like I don't know, like remember back in the day when they had the milk crate, you know, you just had like a little milk crate on your door,
Mm,
and sometimes they had like a box or something for where you would store your milk, and then you know you lock it, and everything else. Why not create something like that for Amazon? Where like you can have a box where we'll put your stuff in only, and you can basically tell the Amazon delivery guy, hey, this is in the this is right here or something like that.
mm,
And like or something like that. And you could even, in the case it's a perishable item, you could even have a cooler section for it.
yeah.
I mean,
Right.
there are other options, and everything because, you know, um, I guess, I don't, it basically, I don't, it kind of just reminds me of a bit of a the Terminator and everything, when did we become too big where we have to, because I don't want to live in Skynet. I don't want to meet the real Skynet.
Oh
So
no!
I don't want to either.
Hell no!
No, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. That doesn't sound too fun. So yeah, and so I'm just curious, and so I'm aware like that Natasha Toseni actually was the one who directed the movie. So I'm just curious. So how
Hmm.
exactly was it like to work with her as the one helming it?
Oh, I mean, like Natasha, and even Stephen Starley, because like both of them, they just absolutely phenomenal. Like I was so thankful. I'm so thankful, incredibly thankful to them for allowing me to be a part of Viral Horn. I mean, these guys, both of them, like to both write, co-write, co-direct, co-produce, and even act in Viral Horn. So you have like those two working on like those four fronts and everything. Like it's just incredible. I mean, like I mean, I act, write, and produce myself, but I've never even directed and everything. So like the fact that those two were able to do that, like work on those four fronts, it's just unbelievable. It was just like really incredible, and it's just like those two, Natasha and Stephen. They made they made this atmosphere of Viral Horn just so welcoming and everything, and it was just like incredible to watch them and everything. I mean, even when I wasn't acting, like when I didn't have any scenes to film, you know, I would often like go to Natasha and Stephen, like, you know, hey guys, I'm not an experienced crew member. I'm not experienced in lighting or cinematography.
Right.
But like if you need any like help, you know, like whether it be like refilling water or carrying equipment, you know, I'm you know, just let me know. And they're like, yeah, sure, Jack, no problem. So yeah, like it was just absolutely incredible, and I'm really just very, very thankful that I got to be part of like something spectacular.
Oh yeah, certainly. And so yeah, and I mean just from my encounters like with Natasha, I mean, she seems like a very social person, and
Mm.
yeah, and I mean, Natasha definitely seems like a really fun person to be around. So
Yeah, she's quite I have to say, yeah, like she's very I mean she's quite she's definitely very you know, she's positive, she's energetic, she's like really outgoing and everything. And I think like you need that, you know, like both as an actor and as a filmmaker and everything, just to sort of like bring that positive energy and vibe to set, and you know, just sort of like making sure that everyone feels you know, everyone feels comfortable and, you know, just like positive. And she just brought so much of that on set, and you know, it just made the experience in Viral Haunt like all the more enjoyable.
oh yeah. Oh yeah, certainly so. I can imagine so. And so so yeah, and so yeah, and so how long did the filming take?
So the filming, it actually took about like 1 week, in fact. So like most of the day, I think it was like for we were in Ripper Manor. I can't remember the name. I can't remember the exact name of the house. I think it was called Craven Arms or something like that. I can't remember. We shot there for, I think for like about like about 6 or 7 days. Oh, so it was like a week or just over a week. We shot there at like about 6 or 7 days, and then obviously, um, and we ended up staying there in Ripper Manor, and then obviously like after we finished filming the scenes at Ripper Manor, we went to Revisby Abbey where we shot like the last couple of scenes there and everything. So so yeah, like it was so yeah, for like a 1 week shoot, or just like a 1 week, 2 days, yeah, like that's how long the production of Viral Haunt took.
Awesome. Yeah, and yeah. Oh, well, that's pretty awesome. And so so can you tell us about when the movie's going to be released, or are you not sure of that yet?
Unfortunately, I don't know exactly when the film is going to be released.
Same.
I think because like right now the Viral Horn, I think like right now it's still in post production, like it's still
Okay.
being, yeah, like it's still being edited and everything. So we just um much like the rest of the cast and crew, you know, I still have yet to wait on, you know, like when, you know, when it's gonna be released. Natasha did tell me there will be like sort of like a premiere for it, like a
Awesome.
yeah, sort of
Mhm.
like a screening for it. So so yeah, she said that she'll like let me know like when that's gonna happen and everything. Um so yeah, like yeah, so like I'm really sorry, I don't have like an exact date when the film's going to be released. So you know, just have to wait back and hear from Natasha or Stephen.
Yeah,
There you
well,
go.
hey, and I mean that is totally fine. And I mean, hey, from all of my experiences making my movies, I mean, editing it definitely takes time. And I mean, just for one scene, that's like what 4 minutes long can take you hours
Mm.
and hours and hours. And even worse is if your software isn't cooperating, it can make it even worse. So
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing about like these editors, because like that's the thing though, like to spend like hours and hours, you know, sort of like editing it, trying to make sure that it's exactly how it matches like the director's vision and everything. It's just absolutely incredible. I mean, for me, like I've never like been in an editing room before, but just like hearing the stories about that, you know, just sort of like the amount of time and effort that these editor or editors go through, you know, it's just incredible. Like I have like, you know, so much respect for them, you know, like respect for them in that field.
oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, editing, it definitely will test your patience. I
Well,
definitely will say that.
Yeah. Well, like it's like in a lot of productions, like in a lot of films, you know, like patience is key. So
Definitely,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, sort of like, you know, pre, during, and post production, you know, like patience is definitely like it's really vital.
It is
mhm.
100%. Yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
Uh,
Yeah. And so,
so one thing that I always like to ask the guests,
Mm.
when you win one,
yes.
what is your speech?
Well, actually, I've actually won like quite won quite a lot of awards
Awesome.
yeah, like for not for not for haunt, obviously, but for other films. Like I've got one over there. I've got a couple on my shelves there, and a couple like on my windowsill. So I'm quite used to winning awards. I would have to say for if um, I mean, if it was like if I won an award for if it was like something like best supporting actor, because Richard is a supporting
Right.
role in this film. Yeah, I just be like really, you know, just be really humble, just thank I wouldn't like talk about me too much and everything, but just like focus on the cast and crew, because like they're the ones that like really, you know, made this film possible. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't be involved in this process. And just it's just such a thrill like watching them work. Like we all have like sort of like different personalities, we come from different backgrounds,
Yeah.
but just to when we all arrived on set, when we were all together, everything just clicked. Everything just clicked. It just connected. We were just able to connect with each other just right there and everything. And you know, I'm just incredibly thankful that I got to learn so much from them. And yeah, and they and in return they got to learn from me as well. So
Right.
yeah.
Awesome.
Well, you know, uh, at least you have your awards out and about, you know, around because there's Richard Dreyfuss. Um, you know where he keeps his Oscar?
Where?
Where?
His refrigerator.
Oh my god.
Why in the world would he do that?
Because he sit there and said he just wanted to. He didn't really want to look at it, but he also wanted to have it in a place where he knew he would look all the time.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've seen that quite a lot. Like a lot of actors and actresses, yeah, mostly actors and actresses, you know, sort of like pictures and videos of them like when they win the Oscar, like keeping like the Oscars and like putting them in like the weirdest positions. I think it was like Kate Winslet. She put her I think like she put her Oscar or Golden Globe or something like in the bathroom. So sort of like in the mirror. So that way when there's guests like walking into the bathroom, it's like, oh, there's a Golden Globe Oscar. And they could like do a
Well,
speech in front of their mirror.
well, I
I
mean,
Huh.
know.
I mean
I
to
never
be
knew
fair,
that.
To be fair, I guess it kind of fits because he is basically in his underwear, you know? I mean,
Oh my God.
That's funny.
well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, you know what? I know where I would have if I ever won one. I know where I would have it. My kitchen
There.
table. My kitchen table as the conversation piece. You know, like some people put like fruits or candles or something. No, I want my I want my Oscar. Eric,
Yeah.
where would you put yours?
I kind of
Um,
figured you were gonna ask me that. Oh, man, I mean, in my tiny apartment, maybe on by my computer chair, maybe in my
So he just keeps it
room.
simple.
Yeah, why not,
No,
right? Short, sweet,
you could
simple, and to the point.
you could put you could put yours. Maybe you could put yours in the bathroom. That would be funny, right?
That it would be. And also, what would be even funnier is if, say, if you have your a Academy Award, person on the award, as if it's like looking right at the person as soon as they are doing their thing.
yeah. That would,
Well,
that would,
no.
that would
Just
kind of really
that would be
creepy.
really funny. Like position it on a shelf where it's like doing this.
Yes,
Oh,
Oh my!
that would be
oh
funny.
God. Oof.
I mean, so, but no, I mean, I so is there? You think there's? Could you see a sequel to Viral Hunt?
Um, I mean, like for Viral Horn, the sequel to Viral Horn, I mean, I'm not entirely sure. Like, I mean, like, there's not, um, I mean, it's not, it hasn't been like something that's been like discussed, sort of like, the possibility of like making like a sequel to Viral Haunt. I mean, if if it was, I mean, if it was possible, like if Richard returned in like in some sort of way, in like some sort of degree, it'd be quite interesting and everything. So, I mean, obviously, like never say never. But I think when you think about like the possibility of like a sequel to Viral Haunt, I think it's it's down to Natasha and Steven, because like they're the guys who came created and came up with Viral Haunt and everything. So I think it's like it's kind of down to them, pretty much. Like if they want to like produce a sequel to Viral Haunt and everything, and it would be if they made the decision to make a sequel, it'd be quite interesting to see like how they're able to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, just with the concept of it being viral, I mean, there is just so many things as to what you can do about that. So, man, so with the possibility of a sequel or sequels,
Mm.
I could definitely see it being possible, actually.
Well, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well,
Or-
like I said, like obviously don't like I said, never say never. Like anything is possible, basically. But I think
well,
like obviously it's down to like just sort of like the story, um, possibly like sort of like the aftermath of like the events that happened in the first film. Sort of like where are the people now and everything. Like what's going
Uh-huh.
on in their lives. How have they like how much have these events like affected them and everything, and like start from there, and just sort of like do like a different journey instead of like, and that's the thing about like for me, like for sequels, they do tend to, some of them turn out to be good, some of them
Yep.
turn out to be better than yeah, some of them actually turn out to be better than the original. But I think like some of them tend to be like,
Not as
not
good.
like, yeah, and I think like it all boils down to sort of like rehashing, sort of like events and situations that were sort of like mentioned and shown in the first film. So sort of like it's kind of like using like the same same formula in like in sort of like in the sequel, but it's just not it just doesn't work and everything. So yeah, like I mean, if you're like producing a sequel, then by all means go go for it, go ahead and everything. But at the same time, probably like try to avoid sort of like going down that trope, where it's like we need, oh yeah, the first film was good, like we need to like sort of like bring that success from the first film into the second one, and everything. So just try to like avoid that trope,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's not just like with any any film, any remake or everything. Yeah, just try to do something new and innovative, like maybe provide like more like more background, like more layers to to the people that were in the first
well,
film that are now back in the second one, like provide like more layers to them and everything
Yeah.
to make
well,
to make the audience go like, oh crap, I didn't know about, excuse my language, I didn't know about them. That's new,
oh, Kathy Cook.
Yeah, exactly. And and people definitely will catch on if you're rehashing the same thing over and over again, and that will
Mm,
backfire. But also the other side of that coin, there's also people who don't like change, especially with like a big name franchise. And if you change it too much, well, and then people are going to complain about that. So it's like it's really, really, really hard to find that balance. And I mean,
yeah.
and I
Well,
mean, yeah,
I think yeah, because like for sequels, I mean, yeah, it is hard, just sort of like finding a balance new, between new and original, or sort of like new and old and everything. Just finding a balance and sort of like keeping it in the middle and everything, and while at the same time trying not to make the audience like lose their focus, lose their interest. So it's kind of like, yeah, like finding like a common ground, basically, you know.
Right.
oh
Mm.
Um,
So yeah, I think like in my opinion, like sort of, I mean, I'm not trying to discourage like filmmakers, from producing, directing sequels or anything like that, but I think like producing a sequel, even like a remake of like a film, um or a film remake of a TV series, something like that, it's probably like it's tough, like it's one
it
of
is.
the hardest, it's one of like the hardest films to make and
well,
everything. And
not every-
I think like you said, Eric, it's all about finding a balance between sort of like the stuff that you know the people that people are familiar with when they watch the first film, and sort of like trying to have them slowly adapt to sort of like the new elements that you want to show subtly in the sequel and everything.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
and also what's also really important, like for people to know when it comes to that, and also, and even with the film industry in general, and I mean just with life also, you really just truly just can't please everybody.
Mm,
Well, and
yeah.
that's the other thing about it too is, not every sequel, like there's some movies that people argue, oh, this is better than the original. Not how do you do that? You have to ask that question too, because,
Yeah. Mm.
term people, I mean, I'm one of the very few that I like Terminator 1 better, but so many people would argue that Terminator 2 is a better movie.
Yep.
Mm.
And then, Godfather, there's always going to be the argument Godfather 1 versus Godfather Part 2,
Mm.
or then
Yeah.
you could have something like The Exorcist, The Heretic,
Oh yeah.
one of the greatest movies of all time versus one of the worst movies of all time. Even though I will sit there and say The Exorcist Heretic is like one of those perfect 70s movies.
Like
Because
the
there was probably
the
some
Exorcist Sorry, Ty. No, you go first, man. You go first.
There was probably definitely some drugs involved with making that movie. And then Richard Burton. Richard Burton, I mean, what just adds to that is how he was just I mean, he was just drunk, and it's like, I'm acting, because that's what
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those movies that I'm not going to sit there and say it's so bad that it's good, but it just has some weirdness to it that makes it good.
I think because like when you mention like The Exorcist, I mean the first one, it's the first one. I definitely see that as like a true horror classic. Just absolutely incredible. But I think the second one, the second one, I was like, this doesn't feel like an Exorcist film. Like, what is this? I mean, you have for those who haven't watched the second Exorcist, spoiler alert. I mean, you have like a scene where Linda Blair or Reagan McNeil, she's tap dancing. Why? Like, why do the people that watch the first Exorcist, why do they need to see that? And I think like the third Exorcist film, I mean, I thought that one was fine. I mean, I'd definitely say it's way better than the second one.
By far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the third Exorcist, it was kind of fine. It kind of like went down like also spoiler alert. It came down like sort of like the Gemini killer, the serial killer route and everything, and it definitely kind of worked in a way. I always see the third Exorcist as The Exorcist 2, in my opinion. I always see it that way.
And I honestly think that George C. Scott is a better Detective Kinderman than Lee J. Cobb. No disrespect to Lee J. Cobb, but
yeah,
George C. Scott. I mean, you can't go. George C. Scott is one of those rare actors that he could just touch a movie and he makes it better.
Yeah. So it kind of like sort of like polish it, and everything, and it's like, oh yeah, here we go, make it look like $1 million.
I'm gonna steal this quote from shouting out another podcast, 13 O'Clock Podcast. They were talking about this podcast. They were talking about a movie called Velociraptor.
Oh yeah.
And so he sits there and says it's a bad movie, but they made it so good that they basically took a turd and turned it into a diamond.
Yeah, that's that saying as well.
So George C. Scott has that rare ability. If he's in a crappy movie, he can turn it into a diamond.
The ability to polish a turd and turn it into a diamond.
That's amazing.
That's actually a pretty good saying. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
yes,
it really truly is. And going back to Exorcist 2, from what I heard that the director of it didn't even like The Exorcist 1. So it's really interesting that they would get somebody who didn't even like the first movie to make the sequel. It's like, why in the world would you do that? And it's no wonder why that it didn't even feel. It's no wonder why that it didn't even feel like an Exorcist movie when the guy who directed it didn't even like the first movie. So it's no wonder why it turned out the way that it did.
At least I actually liked The Exorcist, the beginning. That's probably the better out of all the prequels that they made. But
I haven't watched that one, The Exorcist, New Beginning.
Beginning.
Oh, the beginning. I haven't watched that one.
And then they made Dominion, a prequel to The Exorcist.
Oh, I haven't watched that one either.
And then they made the new one, The Exorcist, the Believer, which
came out like what, a year ago now?
Yeah,
quite recent.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was just okay. I liked the twist that it took, but not really. I'm not trying to bash David Gordon Green. I just don't know if he's really the best director when it comes to actual creating horror. is the thing.
Mm.
You, like Halloween, I'm too lazy to add a subtitle to my sequel. Or
Yeah.
um, I I get it. It's just a marketing thing, but like sometimes things that you do for marketing aren't necessarily the best thing for your movie.
Mm.
Yeah, like that made things so overly complicated. Like with his first movie in the reboot series of Halloween, calling it just Halloween. When before that there was Rob Zombie's Halloween, which was just
Oh
called
yeah.
Halloween. So it's really confusing. So, and that's why that most people just call it Halloween 2018, just to make it less confusing, just so then that way people know what it is that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then don't forget Halloween water.
Halloween H2O. But at least,
Halloween water. Halloween.
but hey, but at least that they didn't just call it Halloween.
Mm.
Yeah. But no, there's I mean, and then I mean, there's so much then you can talk about my favorite horror movie, which is The Omen, and how the sequels with that. I like Omen 2. Omen 3 is eh. Omen 4, it's a diamond turd movie. you know, where it's like it is bad, but it's enjoyably bad. And then they made and I think there was a remake. I don't know. I don't remember that one. I've
Mm.
just I've just deleted that one. And I did see the first Omen. I thought it was just just okay. It was like okay.
I haven't seen it. Honestly, people might be baffled about this, but the only Omen movie I've seen like is Part 4. So, and that was a really long time ago. I was
Yeah.
like in 5th grade at that time, so that was a really long time ago.
Um. So the Omen 4, Eric, from what you remember, yeah, it was fifth grade. But wouldn't you say that was a diamond turd movie?
Honestly, the only thing I remember is that instead of a boy, it was a girl. And the only thing that I remember, because that was such a long time ago, I remember there was a scene of her on like the top of the house by like the stairs, I
Uh,
think it was.
and
And
then
that's the
there's
only thing that and I think there was a scene of her lying on her bed. But other than that, I don't remember anything
yeah,
else.
and then look at all the Amityville movies.
There are so many. There's even one called A Medieval Toilet.
Yeah, no, Amityville Death Toilet, about a possessed toilet.
What? That's
Uh,
the name of the title.
yeah.
Yeah, and we're being dead serious. Like, we're not trying to be funny. It's
Mm.
actually called that.
Well,
Oh my
then there's another one, Amityville.
wild.
Well, I could top that one.
Oh gosh,
There's
how?
one called Amityville Vibrator.
No.
Are they even taking themselves seriously at that point?
Oh
Well,
my.
okay, so the Amityville movies, there are, last I checked, there are 69 Amityville movies.
Wow.
Did they do that on purpose?
No, that's how many there are.
God, and
Okay,
69 weird names as well.
yeah.
Well, there's some of them. So some of the Amityville movies are actually some very good little independent horror movies, and then some of them, it looks like they got their phone and hey, let's make a movie, and it's just
Oh my god.
like there are. I've no, I mean I've watched some of them. I mean, there's even Amityville. There is even one Amityville Island, Amity Island. We could guess what that's about.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only wonder what that one's about.
And then there's even one. There's even one of them called Amityville Bigfoot,
Why am I not surprised?
where I mean, and that some of them are just like these are just some of them, it's definitely a cash grab movie because it's like make a quick
Yeah.
buck, make a quick buck. So
Yeah, especially because it's like if it's like a name of like something, I mean, like Bigfoot, Abominable Snowman,
well, and then
obviously
it's
when you put
because
like, sorry,
and,
sorry,
and the only reason there's so many Amityville movies is because Amityville is technically public domain. You cannot trademark the name of a town.
really?
I mean, that would make sense.
So you could do, I mean, so like Jack, you could do the London Haunting, and then if it becomes like Amityville, then people could make, I mean, you could trademark the name London Haunting, but
Mm,
Amityville, people know what Amityville is, and it's
Yep.
technically
yeah.
public domain.
Mm,
And so and then therefore it will get more people's attention, which is ironic because we mentioned Tasha, which is the same thing that happened with her when she was in Winnie the Pooh.
oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I haven't watched those films. I think it was like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Yes, it was.
I
Yes,
think I think they've done two of those films.
they have. Yeah,
I haven't watched those. I haven't watched those two, but yeah, like, I've heard like like a lot of people have said that oh yeah the second one was like much better, and because like the second one they had like kind of like more budget to
oh,
it and
definitely. Yeah,
everything. And yeah, and they said that oh yeah the like the masks, Winnie's mask, Tigger, I think Piglet,
yeah.
those guys, they were like more, they were much better, they looked more scary and everything. So yeah, I heard about those films.
Shout out to Lewis who played Tigger,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. hmm
fellow friend of the show. So
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, and Lewis, yeah, and Lewis like was telling us like how interesting the makeup process was, knowing that his entire face was covered in makeup, and I know how that's like because with my first movie, I actually played a
Mm,
zombie where it was out in the boiling hot summer and I had to wear really, really dark clothes. I mean, it makes sense because I was a zombie, but yeah, I mean,
yeah.
for a lot of horror movies, they are filmed at night, which that could have been used to my advantage, so I wouldn't have gone as hot. But but
Mm,
that was not my situation though, and so yeah, and I really gotta hand it to Lewis, like for having his entire face covered in makeup. While my face, yeah, it was covered in a lot of makeup, but not as much as him.
Eric,
yeah. I think because like just like the when you have like so much like a lot of like makeup, like especially if it's like where you're spending like about what like sort of like 4 to 8 hours in a makeup chair, with like a lot of that on your face and everything, even like even on your your hands and your legs and everything, just to have like all of that like sort of like done to you, like sort of like added to you and everything, and just like and then like going on set, like spending like hours with this on and everything. It's just absolutely incredible. I mean, like the makeup artists that do it, they do such a incredible job. Just
Oh,
watching like
definitely.
behind the scenes, how they put it together and everything, and how these actors are able to like just sort of like do the scene with this makeup on and everything. It's just it's mind blowing.
Oh, it is.
It's just absolutely fascinating to watch, and major respect to them.
It is. So, I guess question for you. I don't know if you previously had this in your like in your journey, like with being in the film industry, but would you ever see yourself playing a role like where you were like had your whole face or even your whole entire body covered up in makeup?
I mean, it's I mean that's the thing though. Like as an actor, I'm willing to like sort of like really like push back, sort of like push boundaries and like sort of like really get out of my comfort zone and everything. And if there was like a film that if there was a film that required like so much so much makeup where I look like sort of like completely unrecognizable, then I'm up for it, man. Like I'm definitely up for the challenge and everything. And like I said, I'm willing to sort of like so willing to test myself, and even if it's like even if it requires me to like have like makeup done with like 4 to 8 hours done and everything, just having that done and everything, I'm all for it, man. I'm willing
Okay.
to go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would say that that's a really, really good attitude to have about it. And yeah, and having to sit through that makeup chair and all that, I mean, it could definitely push it could definitely push your resilience and your patience. And yeah, and so those are all fantastic skills for somebody
Yeah.
to
Oh
have.
yeah. I mean,
So
like we mentioned before, like patience is definitely key and everything. And luckily for me, I'm quite a patient person, so
Good,
I'm
good.
willing. Yeah. So like, so I'm quite familiar with being patient and everything, even if that requires me sitting in a makeup chair and having 1, 2, 3 makeup artists do like an insane theatrical amount of makeup on me. So
Awesome.
Eric,
Okay.
do you think that do you think that you sitting in that makeup chair it made you feel undead?
That's awesome. So, if you had the chance to play any sort of character that would be covered up in makeup, like I don't know, a werewolf, zombie, or I don't know, like any of the Winnie the Pooh characters, or Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Frankenstein.
Well, that would be ironic if he played Hyde.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah, Hyde, yeah,
my
because your
last name is
name.
Hyde. Oh god, I get that so much. In fact, can I just say something that's like really funny but true?
Sure, go right ahead.
So my middle name is Lewis, and so it's like Jack L. Hyde, Jekyll Hyde. I know it's like I know it.
You know
Like,
what, Eric? We should
like
just
it's just that like some like because I used to get this like quite a lot back in school. So like when people knew that my middle name was Lewis and everything, it's like, hey Jack, your name's Jack L. Hyde. I'm like, yeah. And it's like, don't you get it? Jack L. Hyde, Jekyll Hyde. I'm like, oh god, yeah, I do see it now.
wait. You need to make that your screen name, Jack L. Hyde.
Jack L. Hyde.
You
Yeah.
should. You really should. And
Yeah,
but yeah,
I mean,
and now
it's actually
with that
it's got,
said,
and guess what? Maybe he should actually play Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
yeah.
yes, I was about to say that. I was about to say somebody out there, if you're doing a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde movie, the book is in the public domain, so legally anybody can make a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde movie. Reach out to Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm definitely all up for it. Just I mean, Jack L. Hyde. It's got actually when you mention it, it's definitely got quite a nice ring to it. But yeah, like I mean, I'm definitely up to sort of like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of character and everything. I mean, it's definitely like it's sort of like one where it's like a dual performance where it involves like one actor being two completely different people and everything.
Right.
And yeah, like that kind of thing, that kind of like role, it's something that really tests your versatility and everything.
Oh,
So
definitely.
just to be like a Jekyll, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or something like
Right.
along
Ooh.
like a
And
character like similar to that, like along the lines of that. I'm I definitely be up for that, even if
well,
whether it requires makeup or not.
Well, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the book has the book has a great message. Don't bring out your Hyde.
Definitely.
Because we all have one. If you don't have a Hyde, then
You're
I,
lying.
I have one word for you. Bullshit.
Yeah, it's true. It's true though. Like like you said, Ty. Like everyone has a everyone has a Mr. Hyde in them and everything, and you can't deny that.
Oh, definitely not. And
And
which is why that I think why that story like has stood the test of time. It's because that everybody has that good side to them, and everybody has their bad side too.
well, I mean, look, Eric did an entire series on things that piss him off. So
Yeah. Which is my longest running series I've had on my YouTube channel, which is an entire comedy series where I play an exaggerated version of myself where I talk about things like that make me angry. It's like normal life, everyday things like such as the radio playing the same songs too much, which is something that a lot of people definitely relate to, where they get so tired of hearing those songs played on the radio.
No,
yeah,
I can relate to that as well.
I'm sorry if I never heard Paradise City. I think I'm good, or Metallica has better songs out there than Enter Sandman.
Exactly. It's like, look, Enter Sandman, it's a great song. When I first heard that song, I loved that riff, that dun 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 dun. But after so many times, it like drains your energy. Like it just after hearing it so much, it can make you have an existential crisis.
Right.
And then there's some songs that it's like, yeah, I can hear these over and over again. Like, for instance, guess what? I mean, Crazy Train by Ozzy. I love that song. I could, yeah, maybe not listen to it for a while, but once I hear it, it's like, yeah, but then there are some songs that it's like, I don't really want to hear this again. I guess for you guys, what are some songs that you hear over and over again? But it's like, yeah, I can listen to them over and over again.
Yeah, I think because I remember there was one time because this was actually in my sort of like my final year at in college in the performing in LaSalle. This was like back in Singapore when I was like still living in Singapore, and this was kind of like mid 2014. We were sort of like preparing our graduation showcase and everything. We had to do like there was like two musical numbers. One at the start, which was sort of like we got Magic to do from the musical Pippin, and then the ending number, the ending song, was Let It Go from Frozen and everything, and like that's the thing though, because like Frozen came out in like Christmas time, 2013 Christmas time, and yeah, like just like when I was like going to college, when I was like whether I was in a cab or my mum was driving me there or like somewhere, and every like the radio stations in Singapore, they non-stop played Let It Go. It was like, oh my god, seriously. And then when we found out, oh hey guys, graduation showcase, the closing song's going to be Let It Go from Frozen. Like, oh my god, I mean, I watched the film. I mean, not gonna lie, I enjoyed it and everything. And Let It Go, it is quite a catchy song. But when it's just that like the more times that I heard it, like the more times that I was listening to it on the local radio stations, and like when we were rehearsing it and practicing that song for our graduation showcase, I'm like, oh, seriously, get it out of my this song's gonna get stuck in my head now at this rate.
So in that case, in that case, I guess you just needed to let it go.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my damn joke.
Yeah, exactly. In some cases, just had to let it go.
So Eric, same question for you. What's a song that it's like, yeah, it's a great song, but if you've never heard it again, you're good. But And maybe a song that too. That's like, yeah, you've heard it so many times, but it's still a good song.
Well, I can tell you one song that really, really got on my nerves. It's that song that goes, "I'm a smoker, I'm a joker, I'm a man."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like, with the whole thing about the riff with the guitar when it went, it was really funny at first, but it's like if somebody told you the same joke over and over and over again, where it's funny at first, but it gets really old really fast. I mean, back when I used to work at the 9 to 5 job, like at a grocery store, I heard that song every day. And even worse, they would play it more than once throughout the day. So that really grind on my nerves. And they also played Maroon 5 a lot. I don't have a problem with Maroon 5 itself. I mean, people can say what they want about the singer. I mean, I'm talking about the songs themselves. But yeah, they would play Maroon 5 a lot.
I just have
And I say a lot, I mean a lot.
Wow.
I just have an issue with the fact that I think it's James Martin of Maroon 5, right? The lead singer.
Oh no,
I
Adam
thought his name was
Levine.
yeah.
Oh, well, James Martin. See, I'm not the big up into like the modern rock stuff, but I'll just finish what I was going to say. James Martin, married to Gwyneth Paltrow, he allowed his wife to name their daughter Apple.
Oh,
As their
wait,
first name?
Chris Martin. Chris Martin's
Yeah.
from Coldplay. Chris
Yes.
Martin from Coldplay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, listen, I get having a unique name for your child, but Apple,
Yeah.
like,
I know.
is it Granny? Is she? I don't think she's a Granny Smith. I mean, and I don't know. It's just for like that's one thing that just drives me. That's one thing that drives me bananas sometimes is the
Well,
the
yeah,
weird name parents come up with for their kids now. Like, why can't they pick a cool, like a good name, like Eric, Jack? I mean, even Ty, which is short for Tyler. So
yeah.
Yeah, or even Matt, or even name him, I don't know, Austin, name him
Luke,
James.
yeah, just normal names.
Yeah.
Because well, guess what? I even heard that one kid named his son
What?
What?
Budweiser.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Not even like something like Buddy or Bud.
Yeah. At least name them
Budweiser.
that, but you named your kid after a beer. It's like okay, at that point, you must hate your kid.
Well,
Yeah.
no, well, you could call him Bud as a nickname, I guess,
You
or
could.
Buddy.
Well, like
But
Buddy is an. I mean, like Buddy. Even though I'm not a fan of that name, at least that's an actual name, Buddy.
It is.
more of a dog name. But no, then there's guy. Then I actually had I could even top that. I had a buddy of mine, and he said the only reason he did not name his kid this is because I made fun of him about it. I made fun of him about this. He wanted to name his daughter Malaria.
Oh my god.
Marie. Malaria Marie. And I made fun of him so much that he sat there and did not even do it. And I said, "What? If you have twins, are you going to name the other one Chlamydia?"
Oh, no.
Okay, so I got something for you. So back when my family and I used to have like a phone book. I mean, nowadays I don't know if anybody even really needs those anymore, like with the advent of Google and all that. But anyways, we back when I was in junior high, I was going through the phone book, and I'm not trying to be vulgar, but I saw that somebody in the phone book genuinely had the name Harry Sachs.
Oh my god.
I'm like, oh man, You must get
Harry
picked
Sack?
on a daily basis.
did you do the? Well, I could
God's
actually top.
sake.
I could top that one.
Oh,
There's
how?
there's a guy in my hometown. His name is Dirty Laundry.
Oh,
That's like literally what his name. People named him Dirty, which that's already a bad name for your kid.
that's horrible.
But then guess what his middle nick? But then guess what his middle name is?
What?
Because his name is the movie Harry.
Dirty Harry Laundry.
Oh my gosh. That poor thing.
Yeah. So anyway, so Eric, did you do the Beavis and Butthead thing when his name is Harry Sack?
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I was in junior high. I was really immature at that point. As soon as I saw me being 13 years old, I saw that somebody had a name of Harry Sacks. I'm like, I'm totally going to prank call this person. But I mean, of course I did. I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I even saw a guy because I looked up in the phone book one time. I was curious: is James Bond in the phone book? Yeah. Yes. There was a guy in my area named. It said James Bond.
Oh my
That's
god.
funny. That's funny.
So me being 13 years old, I sit there, called him. Good morning, 007. I was going to give you your next mission. This is M.
I am really curious as to what the response was.
do the theme song. It's like hello. Yeah, like hello. Hello, is this James Bond I'm speaking to? Yeah, speaking.
I mean, so hey, Eric.
That's funny.
Maybe we should see if Harry Sack is still alive and we could get him on the podcast.
That would be funny. And, I doubt that my family still has that phone book because that was back in 2007. But if they did, that would be pretty funny if I had him on. It's like, yeah, remember when I prank called you nearly 20 years ago now? Well, I want you on my podcast now.
See if he has a good sense of humor because if your name is Harry Sack, you have to have a good sense of humor.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you could tell the stories about I even had a teacher. Guess what his last name was?
What?
Toot.
Toot?
Toot. Toot. Now, he did not have a good sense of humor about that name. Like, if you made fun of him, if you called him Mr. Fart, he would give you detention. Like, if your last name is Toot, you should have a good sense of humor about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, no matter what, it's going to be really hard for somebody to not have a smile on their face. I don't care how old you are.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard, to not crack a smile as soon as you hear someone's last name.
Well, I even remember one time he's sitting there writing on the chalkboard, and all of a sudden you hear. and then we're all whispering, "Mr. Toot Tooted." And obviously, guess what? I got a detention. Well,
That's funny.
I got told to go to the office, but I went to the bathroom. So I'm such a bad boy.
You are such a rebel, you.
I know. I guess I really had to go to the bathroom instead of going, right?
I guess so. I mean, good on you.
But no, I mean, man, that's something. That is something though. That is something though. I think that I understand why people don't have phone books anymore, but I wouldn't mind having getting the phone book because the phone book now, if you get one now, it's getting thinner and thinner.
I can see why.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
I I've never really used a phone book myself, but like I mean, I do know like the old ones, where they was sort of like massive, like
Yeah, they
massive
were
hit.
huge.
I know.
I mean,
But-
hey, guess what? There's one good thing to having a thin phone book now. Now we can be like those guys on the internet that sit there and rip the phone book apart. Because we're, I mean, now Eric, you and me could do that no problem, right?
Yeah, and I mean, with like Google and all that, like it really has made phone books obsolete. And I mean, heck, it's even made. I mean, heck, it's even made using maps obsolete, which actually goes back to Viral Hunt. With the concept of the internet and all that. I mean, heck, I mean, even Amazon definitely rocked Walmart's world. It even rocked the world of Toys R Us, which is, from my understanding, one of the reasons why the Toys R Us shut down is because Toys R Us just could not compete against Amazon.
Actually, Toys R Us is back.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Macy's bought them.
Okay.
I mean, I know that the Toys R Us here in the UK. I mean, I've gone past like a couple of them, so it's like still. I mean, Toys R Us. I'm not sure if it's like bought by another company or something like that.
Macy's.
No, I mean like here in the it's Macy's. I mean like the Toys R Us in the UK.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the UK, but maybe it just shut down maybe it's something where it shut down in the US.
I mean, Macy's might have like some operations controlling the Toys R Us's here in the UK or something like that. But yeah, I've actually gone past like a couple of them in the UK. So yeah, like I mean, it doesn't have like a massive presence in the UK, but like it's somewhat still there. Toys R Us in the UK.
Okay.
And that's the other thing too. It kind of goes back to Viral Hunt. Too. Like, do you at least the phone book? It's like local people around your area have your phone number. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's like, okay, yeah, you would prefer it not to be. At least in the phone book, you could always call the phone book company and say, "Hey, I would prefer not to have my phone number in the phone book," right?
Yeah.
But now, you have to go through leaps to get your, phone number off of, and then as long as somebody pays, sometimes it's only like what, like 15 cents or something to just get your information. It's like, how much is too much with that whole thing?
Yeah. And is it worth it?
Because, and that could even be we talked about later, a sequel to Viral Hunt. That could be a sequel to Viral Hunt, where like maybe an obsessive YouTuber, like maybe somebody meets an obsessive fan on their YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, it could definitely. I mean that could be I mean that could be a possibility for Viral Haunt. I mean, obviously, because it would definitely be something like new from the original and everything, but to sort of like go down, sort of like that path where it's like you have that crazy obsessed fan doesn't know that streamer. I mean, like the streamer doesn't know that this lunatic fan doesn't exist in everything, but yeah, like it could go somewhere like down that route,
Well,
and it could like by incorporating the horror element to make it more like kind of like more serious and everything.
Well, it could also bring forth something where the obsessive fan, kind of maybe just leaves like the little creepy messages too.
Oh
I can see
yeah.
that.
I mean, because see, I had a great idea for a new movie where when a stranger calls, that
Mhm.
sort of movie. But
Yeah.
it's called When a Stranger Texts.
When a stranger texts.
Yes.
And
So,
that would make sense.
well, because think about it, how like sometimes Eric, you get those random text messages. It's like, "Hello," and it's like, "Who are you?"
Mm.
and then it could just go into this whole angle where like maybe if you try to call them, it's like and they don't answer. It says I can't talk on the phone. I can't talk on the phone right now.
Yep. And then even worse, if you block that number, they can easily just text you off of a new number or just use a spoof number. So that makes it even worse.
Yeah. It could just bring this whole creepiness thing to, because I said if they want to bring back make a legacy sequel to When a Stranger Calls, do that when a stranger texts. They could add,
and I think it's like because it's not just like receiving like text messages from like numbers that aren't in your contact list, but it's also like sort of like phone calls from sort of like people that you're not in contact with, especially like ones that are like overseas and everything, like those overseas calls. I mean, because like for me, like I mean, I've received like a lot of like overseas calls, so like some like in Vietnam, some in Laos, and like I don't have any connection with those countries at all.
Right.
So but at the same time, like I mean, I don't answer them. I don't answer them, but like I just hung up on them. But like at the same time, it's kind of like this person in Laos in Vietnam. How did he or she able to get my number?
Yeah. And it's even worse when they call you over and over and over and over again. And
yeah,
it's like, what in the world is so urgent for why that you're calling me this many times, especially from a number that I don't know?
Well, especially the other thing too, when they, the other thing too is when they, they call you and it's like, and you get you like at the scam calls, like you say, I've asked, and it's the same company, and you sit there and say, I have called you multiple times to take me off your list.
I mean, hate those scam calls so much. And especially after when I told them, I'm not interested in your project, in your product. Please don't call me. And then at that point, I just won't even answer.
I'm to the point where if I don't even have you in my contacts, I'm not going to answer. Like if you got a new number, just text me.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was like a year ago or so, I got a scam call from Verizon. I'm not gonna lie, it sounded really, really convincing. But their fatal flaw was that I said at the very end, yeah, but it's rather interesting you say that because I haven't been with Verizon in over a year now. And what was really interesting, they got silent and then they hung up. I'm like, you got owned.
Put him in that place, mate.
The ones that I always find interesting is when you actually, they call you, like you said, multiple times, and then you call them back, and then this is how they respond.
Yeah, it's like they don't say anything. It's like, so what? So you were desperately trying to get a hold of me for what? All for nothing?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's just there's so many different angles you could go, I think, with Viral Hunt than the whole concept of it, because
I mean, I think like because for Viral Hunt, there's definitely like a lot to sort of like make a sequel to Viral Hunt and everything. I mean, like there's definitely, like you said, Ty, there's definitely like a lot of like directions, like a lot of sort of like angles that they can they can go with this, and I mean, obviously, like like just sort of like like the crazed obsessive fan, like maybe like finding some way to call some way to call or text like these streamers and everything, saying like say something like, I know who you are, just something like that. It would just sort of like it would kind of like not only would it show like sort of like you know, something that, you know, like people on like a celebrity status have to go through, or something, you know, something like that. But it also like raises the issues of like, when does, you know, when do we draw the line with stalking and everything? I mean,
Yeah, well,
it's kind of like on the scale of like, you know, that that Netflix TV miniseries Baby Reindeer and everything. I don't know if you guys have watched Baby Reindeer.
no.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's really, really great series. It's actually the characters are fictitious, but it's based on a true story. Like the guy who Richard Gadd, who plays Donnie, the lead, the entire series, Baby Reindeer, it's based on his life, and like this stalking, this woman who continues to stalk him and everything.
Mhm.
And would like go, she would sort of like overshadow like his comedic, you know, like his stand-up comedy shows and everything. She'd just follow him, like wait outside his house and everything, or sit outside his house and everything. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like the sequel to the Viral Haunt sequel has to be like some sort of like on the same scale as Baby Reindeer, but sort of like, yeah, just sort of like these well-known streamers like receiving like these text messages, these um from this unknown fan who's been kind of like, you know, oh, I've been watching your content, I know who you actually are personally. You're not who you are on screen. That's just all a
It
facade,
could,
you
it could
know.
be it could be something too where like there's that Twilight Zone episode, okay,
Mm. Oh
where
yeah.
where
Yeah.
like the Twilight Zone episode where it's with Telly Savalas, and it just, you know, you could have the line, you know, it's probably based on what Chucky was based on, but it's the my name is Talking Tina, and I don't think I like you. So you could have something like that where like it's this very robotic sounding voice, and like he just gets a call, you know,
Mm.
my
But
name
yeah,
is, and I
yeah.
don't like you, and like I'm gonna kill you. Like what the like,
Oh my god.
Oh God.
well, I mean, and luckily, you know, you know, or the, you know, it could, you know, there's so many different, you know, that could even be the whole thing too. Another angle with it too, you could always sit there and do something where like, when does a joke go too far, you know, because I think that's seems
Yep.
to be the viral,
Mm. Oh
because
yeah.
like, okay, like I've done this to Eric too recently, you know, we're like in streams, or if he wants me back room in a stream, I'll sit there and say Ty's not here, you know. You know, it's a joke, but then like when does that go to, when do jokes go too far for a friend? It's like, dude, like Eric, I'm sure you can think of some examples in your life when one of your friends pulled a joke on you that was a little too far.
Yeah, and that's something what I feel like everybody can relate to is like, you know, either you told a joke that went too far when you either intended it or not, and even when someone did the same thing to you. So
Mm.
yeah,
I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
I think because like, you know, when it comes to like, you know, sort of like when you're telling a joke and everything, um and like obviously there has to be like some sort, I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't crack, you know, you shouldn't crack a joke or anything, but at the same time, you know, there is like that kind of like mindfulness where it's like, you know, oh, you know, maybe I shouldn't say this joke, you know, it might offend someone and everything. So it's kind of like, you know, thinking that sort of like that thinking twice mentality and
yeah,
everything. I mean, I've come, I mean, like I've come across like people who would crack a joke about you know, like about me and everything. It kind of like excuse my language, like a piss take, basically. I'm like, oh yeah, I mean that's, I mean it's funny because it's funny because it's true. I'm like that and everything, and yeah, like there have been a few times where it's like, when they say a joke where I wouldn't say like I'm completely mad at them, like for making that joke. I'm not sort of like on the lines of like, how dare you make a joke of that? You know, I'm kind of like, okay, I mean, I don't really find that joke funny. I'm just it just makes me feel a little bit awkward and uncomfortable. So yeah,
Uh,
it's kind of like yeah. So like I think like I said, I'm not saying that you shouldn't tell jokes, but it's just sort
right.
of like it depends. It's all about sort of like you know knowing when whether or not this joke is offensive or it's fine. You know.
Right, of course.
and
Yeah, and
and obviously you don't know how people are going to react to it. It's quite unpredictable.
it is, yeah, and that's one of the risky things about comedy. But my advice, I think it would be good to know your audience.
Oh
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
exactly. Well, and the other thing
Mm.
too is like you could. I mean, I've some guy. He was trying to offend me one time. He was trying to be offensive, and I knew what he was doing. I just didn't care. I'm a husky guy. I'm a fat guy, and he was trying to make fat jokes, just trying to offend me, and I was not even like, didn't even budge. It's like because he was trying to offend me, like the ones that like are trying to offend you. It's like, dude, don't even try to engage with them. Make fun of them back. At that point, like because sometimes poke the bear, but
Mm.
don't poke the bear all the time. Because if it's like the stupid internet trolls, make fun of them, right? Right, Eric?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, a lot of times, like with trolls, they're just trying to cause chaos. They're just trying to disrupt things and they're just trying to stir up things. So if you just don't give them attention, because that's what they want, like that they want attention. So if you just don't give them what they want, they're just going to move on because they don't want to waste their time.
Yeah. I mean, they just basically try to get a rise out of you, basically, and which is sad, but
It is.
it's true.
It
Right.
really
Like,
is, and it's kind of sad, like how it's out of all things they're doing with their valuable time that they're never going to get back. It's that.
Yeah.
yes, well, because I was watching one of my favorite shows, Shark Tank, and this
Uh,
kind of even brings up something. I think for you guys in the UK and Canada, it's called Dragon's Den.
Okay. Oh.
But this guy,
Oh.
this guy
Sorry.
made it. This guy was building a business with his son, and I guess he built multiple businesses. He actually made Gorilla Glue,
Mm.
and he just said that he wants to find people to help him because how time is the most valuable asset. We can never
Yep.
get time back. And
Nope.
he said how he does not have it in him anymore to build another business, which I'm like,
I
I get it.
Yeah. I mean, doing something like that, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
It is,
So,
but if you really want it that much, well, and then I guess it just depends on how much that you want it.
Well, yeah. I mean, like obviously, because like if it's something that if it's something that you really want, you have to like definitely like work for it and everything. And but instead of just like you can't just be like doubtful and like, oh, I don't think I mean, I do want this, but I don't think I can get this. It's just that like when you have that mentality and everything, just that mentality of self-doubt, you know, obviously you're not sort of like spending your time wisely. I mean, spending your time to try to achieve it, to get that's way better and like way more important than not spending your time not trying to achieve it.
Exactly, yeah, and it reminds me, You know, I feel like that Jim Carrey said it best. You can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well should go take a chance at doing what you love.
Mm.
Oh, oh damn, we got to hear more of the damn Jim Carrey quotes.
Yeah,
What?
because they're smoking.
I mean, no, well, that's even one thing that people, you know, well, obviously I'm being sarcastic about it because, Eric, I mean, Jim Carrey's one of Eric's biggest heroes and he talks a lot about him. And I get it, but people have criticized Eric for talking too much about Jim Carrey. So,
Yeah, well, hey, and I mean,
there's nothing wrong with Jim Carrey.
yeah, there isn't. And honestly, Jim has given some of the best advice I have ever heard.
well, yeah, would you want to? I mean, you could talk about worse people than Jim Carrey.
I could talk about Jeffrey
Char-
Dahmer.
Charles Manson. Let's talk about the Zodiac killer.
Yeah, let's talk about Adolf Hitler. Let's talk about
Genghis Khan. Which, by the way, did you know that at least everybody in the entire world has at least a fraction of a percent of Mongolian in them because of Genghis Khan?
Really? I never knew that.
Wow.
Yeah. They have at least a fraction of a percent of Mongolian in them because of Genghis Khan, because, well, he got around.
I never knew that.
But no, there's, but like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just to me, that's some of the other things too that I think a lot of these YouTubers, and it's been studied since famous people were famous. What do we do for the price of fame?
Yeah.
Because I mean, look at some of these people that do these crazy stuff for fame, and it's like,
Yeah.
dude, like fame is not everything. I mean, I think that there are some people, it seems like they treat the fame as if it's their entire thing in life,
Yeah.
and that's not healthy for you.
No, it's not. And and even going back to Jim Carrey, even Jim Carrey said something about that, like how, like how fame isn't as cracked up as they make it out to be. I mean, it even goes back to a lot of the things that Viral Hunt, like about having your personal information be out there. I mean, I've heard stories about with all these big name people, like how people try to invade their homes and actually will climb over their fence.
Well, then look what there was. I mean, Danielle Harris dealt with something like that where she actually had a stalker,
I heard about that.
and the guy came in with a shotgun.
What?
That's
Yeah.
crazy, right?
Yeah, and then look at the people. Then look at the remember the there was that, I think they made a movie about the bling rain or something. The people who would sneak into celebrities' houses when they weren't home and then steal their stuff and then sell it online.
Oh my god.
Wow, that's totally not disrespectful.
Yeah, well, um, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's one of those things too. And Daniel Harris. I've even and even I've had to deal with some ex-girlfriends with now ex at the time ex-girlfriends. We're all good, but I've had to deal with some of her ex-boyfriends where they one guy came in with a tire iron,
Yikes.
and I confronted him.
Well, I can see why. But yeah, on a more lighter note,
Yay! Lighter note.
besides Viral Hunt, are there any more upcoming projects that you would like for the audience to be aware of?
Yeah. like actually right now I'm like next month I'm actually acting in a thriller feature film called Bitter Revenge. We actually started shooting I think it was like around late November. But the shoot had to be like sort of like pushed back because like one of the crew members had um sort of like personal um personal emergency to attend to, so it's been kind of like pushed back. So yeah, like the so yeah, we're going to be resuming filming sort of like around late January, early February, and everything. So I'm not sure. I mean, I spoke to Isaac, the director of Bitter Revenge, and he said that he is thinking about sort of like put on like Amazon Prime Video or like some sort of like so like one of those public video platforms or something like that. So yeah, like I've got that. I'm actually waiting for like castings and everything. I've actually been submitting like a lot of self tape since my as you can see my self tape backdrop and my ring light. Yeah, like just like well, yeah, so sort of like before, like over the Christmas break, it's just been like nonstop. Like I've been just, just filming like a lot of self tape. So yeah, just been, and yeah, just I have Bitter Revenge coming up, and yeah, so far it's it's been quite productive.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say with all that, I certainly do wish you the best of luck on all that.
Yeah, and we don't want to take too much of your time, so but no, just I would the lovely host of the podcast forgot to um, do the scrolly.
Oh, I am so sorry. I forgot about that. I'm
But,
so sorry.
but if you want some merch from Junebug Films and Veerthaler Studios, go to Pop Pop Tees. We are working on overseas. It's just he's a startup, but we are working on that. We are also, if you can, we are also trying. If you can, watch the video on Eric's channel. Attention, Star Wars Theory. We are trying. We have Star Wars Theory, who said yes to an interview, and we haven't really set something up yet. And he was kind of being a little hesitant, but so we're trying to get him on. So please watch that video. I think right now it's at 95 views. So please at least watch it and share it out as much as you can. Eric, is there anything you want to plug?
But yeah, I just want to plug, future episodes of Set Down by the Fire. We actually going to be having Terry McMinn on in January. I mean, January is really close now. And yeah, and for those who are unaware, Terry was in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I am very excited to have her on. That is going to be awesome. I'd like to have her on. I am definitely very, very excited to get to speak to her. I mean, considering that is definitely one of my top favorite horror films. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about that. Again, a few upcoming projects like Dracula versus the Frankenstein monster, a few other projects that I can't really say yet. But yeah, we also will have a link in the description, like to Jack's Instagram page, and so that all of you can give him a follow.
And Eric will even leave a link to the Attention Star Wars Theory video too.
Yes, absolutely so. But yeah,
because we want that interview, because we just want to generally talk to a good old Star Wars fan. So,
definitely. But yeah,
so
thank you
see you
all
guys later.
so much.